My name is Julie. I'm from New York City in the United States, and I'm a physical therapist. And I had actually already started a journey. So I'd really been working on myself, and I had really been stuck. I was stuck in a place where I knew there was an incongruence between the way people were reacting to me and describing me and the way I felt about myself. And I knew that I couldn't figure out how to get to the other side, that what they were saying felt a bit true, but in my own self, in the story I was telling myself, I wasn't able to overcome these things. And I was doing a lot of work on trying to get closure in my marriage. And I just had harbored feelings that I had been working on that I just was not ready to put behind and didn't quite know how to deal with them. When I was in September, my youngest son was leaving for college, and I was about to face a pretty almost empty nest. And I had set in my mind that this was really the time to start really making changes in my life, and that this was the moment, and that I was going to have the time. And I did this rather than be sad that he had left. I felt good and bad about myself. I felt very mixed. I think, compared to, now that I've been through the program and I see where other people were, I think I was in a lot better place than a lot of people. I have done a lot of work and I work with a lot of people. So I think that I had different kinds of issues. They were more specific, so I kind of knew what I needed to work on. I think that I was like on the verge, but I just couldn't figure out the tools and couldn't really put them in the right sequence, and didn't have all the tools and didn't know where to get them. And I'd been doing stuff, but it just couldn't get me there. I knew people were telling me, you're smart, you're effective. But what I never did was I never understood that you should be celebrating your own victories. Not only celebrating my children and my clients and my family, which is something that's so easy for me. It was celebrating myself. And I think that was the hardest thing at first. So it was a simple thing, but it was something that I'd never considered. I never felt good about it. And so it started there. So that simple part, because so much of it I had already had in place. And then I had already known at points in my life that I knew that I was moving back to be the person that I was before I got married. Yeah. I already knew that. I could feel it. But I also knew that person, I'd already discovered that a lot of the dreams that I had were exactly the dreams that I had then. But that person couldn't make them, couldn't do that. So there was something that person was not actualized. That person was stuck. Yeah. And so I had already gotten to that point, which I think is probably way ahead. I just didn't know I had to go back even further to look to the person. And that the things people were saying to me were really the things that people had always said to me when I was little. Oh, you're bright and you're this and you're that and you're very creative and you're all that, and all the things that I totally didn't believe about myself. And I totally bought into the fear every day. I was afraid of a million things. The big takeaway for me is, which I didn't understand, was that I wasn't an alcoholic. I don't drink. I don't have any of those habits. So I was never one of those people. So it was easy, how you soothe and you shield and you do these. I don't tend to get very angry at people. I take it out of myself. I feel bad. I'm the kind of person who has to fix everything. I have to take care of everyone. I always thought that appeasers, which I was, and I'm working really hard not to be, appeasers, it seemed like, well, that's an okay kind of person to be. You're not out doing these things, but I couldn't see how harmful it was to myself. I had no boundaries. It had always been an issue for me professionally. I took the patients home with me. I didn't set up proper boundaries with my husband. I didn't set up proper boundaries with my friends. I didn't set up proper boundaries anywhere. And so I didn't know how to do those things. And I always was upset and hurt. And I kept thinking, and I felt like, but I'm such a good person. Well, yeah, you're a good person, but what you didn't do is ever protect yourself. and you never established who you were. I discovered that I really am a very happy person, which I kind of always knew. But I also discovered that those things that people always said about me were really true. I found that I am very determined. I'm very effective. I have a lot of skills. I also found out, which is really funny, it kind of sounds ridiculous, but I had a lot of issues with my mom and with wearing makeup, which I'm clearly not wearing any right now. And, but the way I looked, and I never really felt very pretty, and I just didn't feel that way. And I actually have really like this smoking hot body, even though it's all hidden now, but I didn't feel that way. And it's funny because I went on a date the other night and I wore tight pants, I wore this little shirt, and I was just being me. I'm now me. And I went to the bathroom, and when I came out of the bathroom, I saw this man looking at me, sort of, he's admiring me. And then I looked around the room, I'm like, I think most of the men in this room are looking at me. And I never really thought about it that way. But I know it has to do with the energy also. Because when you're feeling good and you're feeling happy and you're feeling confident, you give it off and then you feel that. And so I sense that when I'm out now. And so that's very different. And that's something that every once in a while there was almost like a spark would go off and I would feel this person existed, but now I feel like her almost every day. The other thing that I also feel is that I always knew I had a lot of tools, but I don't think I always would use them. And now, because I'm very content within myself, it's much easier for me to listen. And I think I always was kind and caring, but I think I'm not really defensive about anything. So it's much easier for me to have relationships, even with more difficult people, because I can just hear what they're saying and I take it for what it is. I don't have to put the meaning on it. I know how to do all my work on it. So I'm able to get through my day in a very easy way because most things really aren't a big deal, which is great. So, and that takes away also, from most of the stress a lot of the stress during the day. But I think the other thing that it's funny because I was talking to my friend about this today is that I lived a very unbalanced life. So I lived a life where I took care of my family, I took care of my job, and that's pretty much what I did. And so that's who I would identify. I didn't know that everyone was playing tennis. I don't know where every woman in America was able to play tennis because I certainly wasn't playing tennis. I wasn't doing anything fun. And because I was the type of person who felt like an outsider, it precluded a lot of fun and including myself in fun. And now I've had to try to find new friends and new interests. And I actually say yes to things now. I plan a few things now. And I actually am working on, trying to do a fun thing every week. And it sounds kind of weird that would be something that you would say, but my life was really very unbalanced. I stuck within what I needed to do. And I was fearful of money. I was fearful of people. The stories I was telling myself really kept me on the outside. That has really changed, but that's a tough one for me. So sometimes when I think about what changes have I made, and then I'm like, oh, I really didn't do enough. I'm going to Hawaii with the woman that I work with, and we're staying with a client. I mean, that's like really out there for me. And I literally make plans. I mean, I've been out dancing. I can do that. I can arrange things. I go out. It's just, even though it's not a lot. So my girlfriend was saying today that she needs to change her life and she needs to do things. And I was laughing and I said, well, you started at a different level. You started at medium fun and you need to amp it up. I had to start from no fun. I'm like at medium fun. So yeah, we can work on the next level together, which is good. But I realized that I really had zero balance in my life.
Yeah.
And so I'm really working on that. I think the best part is that I'm not afraid to dream of a life. I had stopped. I gave it up. Now it's like kind of easy. I can just like close my eyes and think about 20 places I want to go. And I can think of things. And I think that when you're stuck and when you're unhappy, you know, I wasn't an unhappy person. So I've never been that. But I think that when your life is kind of stuck, the first thing that happens is you stop dreaming because it's protective. And I think that having the ability to dream, to daydream, to even believe that you can have a different life is very exciting. And I think that's also where I was stuck, because I didn't really even perceive that you could do that. All the things that happened in my marriage, they're totally behind me. I talk about them and I laugh about them because they are definitely in the past. They don't, and there were some doozies in there. I mean, we had a long marriage and a lot of wacky things, but I just feel peace. I really felt that taking responsibility was freeing. So I'm not a victim. And by doing that, you know, I was young. I knew I shouldn't have married him. I have journal entries. I mean, I actually write, I'm going home and I shouldn't marry him. I wrote that, but I was afraid and I came from fear. I thought no one would ever love me. I thought that I was unattractive. I like the crap that I brought to the end of my marriage, I had at the beginning of my marriage. I was dealing with the very same things that made me say I do were the things I walked out. I was 30 years older, but a lot the same. By being able to take responsibility, by saying, I agreed to marry him. Now, for whatever reason, it was stupid. I agreed, you know, to not wait the year, but to get pregnant 6 months in because he was okay. I agreed. I stayed. I, you know, didn't know how. I mean, I don't think, and I learned that just because you make choices, sometimes you have no choice to make the choices, but they're choices. You could be poor and destitute. I could have called my parents earlier. There were things I for whatever reason, but I don't feel guilty about the choices anymore either. I don't need to second guess myself. That's extremely freeing. What does the future hold for me? So the future holds that I originally, when I came out of my marriage, thought that I needed to get into a relationship because I wanted my kids to see their mom in a positive relationship because they'd only seen me in an abusive relationship. Yeah. And I was in a position of weakness. That has changed. I want to be in a relationship because I want to be happy. I know what I want. I know that I deserve to be happy. I'm able to say that. I am able to envision the kind of life that I would like with a partner, where before I wasn't able to envision that. I just knew that it was something I had to do so that my kids could see that. It was still not for me. And now I see that as something for me. I'm looking for someone to be my partner, which is really kind of funny because I knew that back then. I wrote these beautiful wedding vows that never came to fruition. And I was looking for that, but I didn't know how to do that. And I was broken. And I sought someone who was broken. And I settled. I was unable to even envision what my life would be because I didn't know how to do that. And now I have an idea of, I think I want to do this, and can actually say to somebody, that's a definite hard no, and I would want to do this. And I do now understand the theory of scarcity, which was something that I lived in. And now I understand that, you know, I have to feel like I am worthy. And I actually do. I'm a catch. I actually know that. It's funny because people have been telling me that for years, but there's not much I can't do. So it's kind of nice to come from there. So that's one piece. I'm not quite sure how to find the right guy. I'm not quite clear if the guy that I'm going out on this date with again tomorrow is the right guy, but I'm not even worried about it. I would have been worried about this. And now I feel like, okay, it's an adventure and I'm going to test it out. I'm going to see. And if it doesn't work out, I'll meet somebody else. Not really feeling worried about that. And that's something that I couldn't imagine that I would feel that way. I feel like I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to see the world. And now I'm like, okay, well, I have this passport. I have all these travel miles, and I'm just going to find the time and find people who want to go, and okay. And that's what you're supposed to be doing. The daily feeling like I can see that I'm shining. I mean, I can see it. I get up in the morning. It's pretty easy. I start my routine. I feel really good about that. I am really ready to start my day. And I think that this go round, so when I'm ready to do it again, which I know that I am, I've already picked the thing that I need to work on, which is my feelings about money. I've even dealt with all the issues with my mother the first go round, which it's amazing. I mean, I get along so much better with my mother. I got two for the price of one. I can see that it's a process. So no one should think that, you finish 9 weeks and there you are, your life is all fixed. But again, I'm a tool collector, and I feel like I've got so many tools. I actually use most of these tools throughout my day, which is amazing. And they're becoming more just a part of me. And I think that's really what it is that how do you integrate them? And I can't be more grateful because I have a bookshelf full of books and I read them, but I didn't know how to put them together. And now I just have to live it.